Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be getting started in just another minute here. Great to have you on with us. I hope everyone is doing well and maintaining as best we can. And yeah, we're looking forward to another great session together. So I'm getting things together on my end. We'll get started in just another minute. Thanks everyone for joining. Okay. Well, again, good afternoon, Santa Barbara. Good afternoon. Welcome once again to the biweekly. Although this week we're kind of back to back. We were together last week where we were looking at responsible borrowing and budgeting. And this week we're back again for answering difficult questions, as you can see on your screen. My name is Charles Botts. I am the Director of Training and Communications at Career Team. And Career Team is so honored and so pleased to have had the opportunity to partner with the Santa Barbara American Job Center and to provide these sessions that we've been facilitating over the last several weeks. Bittersweet, kind of coming to the end of at least this iteration, this phase. Don't know what the future holds. Would love the opportunity to come back and spend some more time with y'all, but we are coming to the conclusion. We have today's session, and then December 3rd, kind of wraps up this iteration. So it's been great. Hopefully, it has been informative. It's been inspirational, and most importantly, effective for those of you that have had the opportunity to participate. Of folks that are on, if you have been with us so this would be session number 9. So if you've been with us for more than 5 sessions, could you just put that in the chat? Kind of say, hey, I've been here for all of them, or I've been here for 5 or 7, however many, including today. So you're here. We'll include today. Just let us know how many. So yeah, Janie's my friend. I do recognize Janie's name. She has been here for all of them. Um, and that is exciting. Anybody else that has anyone else been in for more than 5? Been in for more than 5? If you want to just throw them in the chat, that would be great. Just kind of give me a ballpark of how that has been. Okay, more than 5 for sure. Yeah, awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, I do not take it for granted at all. Your time is precious, even even in the middle of a pandemic, where we're being encouraged to kind of stay home as much as possible, hunker down, what have you. Your time is still precious. Your time is still your most valuable asset, your most valuable resource. And so I do not take it for granted. And again, I'm very grateful, very humbled that you would spend some time with us, as part of these Zoom webinars. So thank you once again. And so, as is our custom, has been our custom. We did put together, and I think last week I actually played it for the first time in a couple of weeks. I won't play it again this week, but we do have kind of a brief commercial that talks a little bit about Career Team. I do want to jump in because there is a lot of meat to today's session. So I do just want to jump into it. I think it's helpful for folks that maybe haven't been on with us for multiple sessions to understand that Career Team is a service provider. We are not a publishing company. We are not a technology company. We are not only a direct service provider. We are a combination of those things. But our base, our foundation, our core competency is in service delivery and contract management. We manage contracts, American Job Center contracts all over the country, and that informs our best practices, that informs our approach to providing training, guidance, and advice for individuals that are in an active career transition. And so we come with the perspective of practitioners. We are not simply intellectuals or academics that have not had an opportunity to test our theories. Everything that we bring to you, we have tried in the lab, in the field, so to speak, the field of working with individuals every single day, just like folks that are with us today, on how to effectively navigate the job market, get from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. We do keep the chat window open. If you are comfortable using Zoom, you're comfortable using the chat, please feel free to do so throughout the presentation. I do try to solicit participation and engagement. It's a bit of a challenge when we're remote, when we're virtual. We get kind of comfortable in our places, but I do try to engage you, and hopefully you find that valuable. So please feel free to use the chat feature if you have questions, comments, feedback, or thoughts as we go through the presentation. And certainly, please feel free to take yourself off mute if you feel so inclined. If you have something to share, you'd like to verbalize it, would love to hear your voice. Love to see your face if you want to come off mute and share your comments that way. And so with that, let's skip ahead and jump right into it. So I think a couple things to begin with that we want to address right away when we're talking about successfully navigating an interview, successfully managing the particularly complex, maybe sometimes difficult questions that will arise during an interview. So there's some basic things that we got to keep in mind that are going to apply regardless, that are going to apply. They're going to be relevant regardless of what question is asked. First and foremost, you're relying on and using examples from your experience to respond to questions, to express, validate your strengths, your value, and so to that end, we certainly want to make sure that we are including relevant anecdotes, relevant examples of our experience and education. It is helpful to be well-rounded. An organization certainly wants to get an appreciation, particularly in today's day and age. Organizations are looking to gain an appreciation of the full individual, which is why we mention including a little bit of your personal background, not too much. You certainly want to monitor it, but it's appropriate to include some of that. But it should be relevant. It's always got to be relevant to the organization, to the position. Achievements and accomplishments are essential. You may have heard me say this in other sessions. It's not bragging if it's true. And if you don't say it, the employer won't know. I can appreciate that some of us do not like talking about ourselves. We do not want to come across as arrogant or braggadocious or anything like that. I recognize that. I understand that. I appreciate it. And at the same time, I have to push back and challenge you a little bit. If you don't tell the employer the ways in which you've stood out in previous opportunities, the employer won't know. You cannot rely on your references to share everything that articulates and demonstrates your value. You have to be your best advocate. Uh, with that in mind, we want to be careful that we respond to any one question in 2 minutes or less. And so, that you really want to time yourself so that you are monitoring your length. We want to avoid, I'm certain folks are aware of this, but you certainly want to avoid saying anything disparaging, anything negative about a previous organization, about any of your prior colleagues or coworkers, even if it was a miserable situation. You and in that scenario, you want to say much less, and you want to quickly kind of transition. But under no circumstances do you ever want to share negative feedback, negative comments about a previous opportunity. All that's going to do is paint you as being a bitter and vindictive, and ultimately you are better than that. And then lastly, so important, team, don't be afraid to ask the employer to rephrase the question for more detail, more information. Could you say that a different way, please? I'd really appreciate it so I can formulate the best response. It is not a problem at all to ask for clarification so that you understand the question. So very important. You cannot give a great answer if you don't know what's being asked. So don't be afraid to get some clarification so that you can respond to what's being asked. All right, so let's jump right into it. The way that we are going to manage this session is we're going to actually look at some of the more challenging questions that come up in an interview and provide you with some tips, some recommendations on how to respond. I would love to hear from y'all on this as we go through. If you have a particular approach, if you have a particular idea, concept, strategy that you use to address some of these questions or some of those curveballs that come up, we'll kind of talk about those towards the end. But there are a series of very specific questions that we want to tackle. If you have a feedback, thoughts, ideas, please, please, please come off mute. Please, please, please put it in the chat. Share with the group. Don't be afraid to share with the group so we can get a better sense based on your perspective, kind of your approach and how you manage these things. That will be incredibly helpful. So we wanted to kick off this session with the question. Inevitably, you're going to be asked, regardless of the position, regardless of the round of the interview. This is going to be asked, you can guarantee, in 99.9% of your interviews. It's seemingly a throwaway question. It feels like it might be routine, like interviewers are just asking it because they don't know how best to start. But believe me, it is incredibly intentional, and that is tell me about yourself. This is not your opportunity to go into great lengths and detail about your full education, about your comprehensive work history, and by no means is it an invitation to get too personal. You are briefly sharing some of your history, an overview of your education, your work experience, your personal qualities that pertain to the position. If you are interviewing at the same organization for multiple positions, which can happen, you may be interviewing with different departments. Your response to this question is going to vary even within the same organization because it should be tied to the position for which you're applying. You want to rely on personal, educational, work experience examples that are relevant to the position. And so this is just a brief, again, high level overview. All of the rules that we mentioned previously apply. This is also an opportunity for you to weave in why you're interested, although they're going to ask that specifically, and so we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But you can start to weave some of that in now, at least on a surface level. You'll have an opportunity to go deeper a little bit later on, as well as talk about what are some of the things that are really exciting about the organization. and the opportunity. Your passion, your purpose. What you consider to be your career calling. That this is the opportunity to include some of those things. Many of the questions from this point start to get very focused, start to get very narrow. This is a little bit more open ended, which is the trap here. The difficulty is, and I know I'm spending some time on this question, but this really does set the tone. The trap here is that you become too broad, you become too general, or you take too long. You try to do too much. This is the first question. It's important, but you're gonna get opportunity through the course of the conversation to include other pieces of information that maybe you didn't get a chance to include in your initial response here. The other a question you can almost be guaranteed that you're going to be asked, and so this is sort of the mirror image. If tell me about yourself is the first question, generally why should we hire you is going to be the last question. Generally, that is how most interviews are going to conclude, and this is really where it becomes, not that it hasn't been up to this point, but it really becomes all about you. So you're going to present those credentials and experiences, those things about your background. You're going to revisit those things. You're going to leverage your assets. What are the features about you that make you stand out in a crowd? If you are a more senior person, you're going to talk about how your years of experience have shaped your maturity and judgment. If you are someone that is more junior, someone that is earlier in your career, you're going to rely on qualities like a recent relevant education, if that is the case, energy, adaptability, flexibility, those things, because you may not have some of the responsibilities that someone that is maybe a little bit advanced in their career may have. This is also an opportunity to include information that may not be on the resume. Share a nugget, share a gem that you left off of the resume that you can introduce at this point in time. And lastly, team, and this is it can't be understated or it can't be overstated how essential it is for each and every one of you to recognize you are the only you that there is. And so ultimately part of your response to this question is that they should hire you because you're the only you. That there may be other people with similar experience, similar education, similar background, similar passions, interests, qualifications, etc., but none of those people are you. That you are the unique combination of all those things that has put you in this position. And so do not be afraid to emphasize the fact that there is only one you out there. Have you ever done this kind of work before? This is really, really all about, kind of what in your background, what in your previous experience is going to make you a good fit. You're qualified on paper, but take us beyond that. And the reason why you're there, remember, you're not there to rehash your resume. The reason why you're there for the interview is that they identified in your resume enough qualifications to make you eligible for the position. They've determined based on what's in your resume that you are qualified. So now it's really all about providing some clarity to your qualifications. What is it about what you've done that will make you a benefit to this organization? So when an organization asks about your experience doing this kind of work, if you have, you're going to talk about the successes you've achieved doing this kind of work previously. If you have not, we've got some recommendations. And thank you for the feedback, Janie. Yeah, you do want to try to avoid rehashing your resume. Not particularly helpful. They have your resume. They know what your resume says. You don't want to spend a ton of time on that. If you haven't done this particular type of position before, again, you're there for a reason. So you have enough related equivalent experience in what you have done to make you qualified for the position. So you don't need to do a lot of improvising or spin. You don't need to do a lot of the, part of why many people have such a bad taste for politicians is because we feel like they're spinning all the time. You don't have to do that in this situation. If you have never done this specific position before, then you're relying on your experience and the success that you've had in related positions. And you can see some of the suggestions that we have here. In particular, you want to talk about your versatility, your flexibility, that you have a background and credential that relates to what's happening. And at any time, you can kind of document your success, whether they be awards or other things. That's only going to help you. So the key takeaway here is, if you've done it before, don't you're not bragging. You're simply providing the employer with information that demonstrates you have had an impact when you've done this work in the past. And if you have not, you're relying on other things like your related work experience, etc., to assure them that you are a good fit, even though you haven't done this specific position before. So the why us? Well, there's a couple of why us's, and we're gonna look at a few of them. The first one is this position, this particular opportunity. So it's less about the company here. You're welcome to include information about the company, but this question in particular is really about the opportunity itself. So, why a customer service representative? Why a sales associate? Why a data analyst? Why a case manager? Why HR associate? It really is about the particular opportunity. So you're going to talk about the features of the position. Maybe there are some things in the job description that really grabbed your attention. Don't be afraid to bring those up, all under the context of how that position would work within the organization. So there's nothing wrong with talking about what makes you excited about being a data analyst, but it's not just about being a data analyst. It's about being a data analyst at company A, Aetna, you know, IBM, wherever. It's about being that position at that organization. And so you're gonna this really is a chance for you to demonstrate what you know about the position. These are some of the things that get me really excited about serving as a customer service associate here. Your organization does an incredible job of making every customer feel like they're a repeat customer, even if they're interacting with the organization for the first time. I get such passion and such energy from serving individuals, and being a customer service associate. You're on the front line, and so you're going into that kind of information about the role, and in particular how the role fits into the environment at that particular organization. Okay. So there's the position, and then there's, okay, why did you leave, or why are you looking to leave your previous position, a previous organization? So this is kind of twofold, right? So one scenario could be that you're looking to transition within a company. So you're working in human resources, and now you want to transfer over to IT within an organization. So why are you looking to transition the position? But there's also kind of, why are you looking to leave the organization? Why did you leave? Or why are you in the process of exploring other opportunities? And so again, this is a trap. This is a trap. It has nothing to do specifically with the organization that you're leaving. Let me say it again. Your response to this question has very little to do with the organization that you're leaving. Now, the reality is it may have a lot to do with that. You may have sort of hit a ceiling. You may there may have been management changes that have made the culture of the organization very different from the organization that you started working with. The organization may have engaged in some practices that no longer align with your particular code of ethics, and those are all incredibly reasonable um, uh, responses, but it's not about the other organization. It's not about the other organization, because remember, we want to avoid the trap of coming off as vindictive or petty. And so it really is about this. You've reached a point in time where you're ready for the next level of challenge, where you're ready to position yourself to be more fully aligned with your professional goals and your professional values. It is really about the particular opportunity that you're applying to. So it's less about what I'm leaving and it's more about what I'm going into. Why are you looking to leave the organization where you are, or why did you leave the organization where you were? Well, you know what? It's really about me identifying opportunities that are going to allow me to stay aligned with my professional goals and my professional values. And your organization is uniquely aligned with the things that I'm passionate about, and that is relevant regardless of the position. So what's really important, team, is that you don't feel like these kinds of responses are only for a certain level of position. That is not the case. That is not the case. These kinds of responses and the care that we're encouraging you to take with your responses it should apply regardless of the organization, regardless of the position, because it's about your career. We are encouraging you to take some ownership, to take take a sense of belonging to your career path. And so it doesn't matter what I'm applying to, I'm going to put in the effort to ensure that when I go in for that interview, I make it clear that I'm serious about this opportunity. I'm serious about this organization. And so you can see some of the other recommendations here in terms of the position is going to give you an opportunity to grow your skills, and then provide some examples of some of those skills. Let me take a quick pause. We're about at the halfway point. Let me take a quick pause and see if folks have any questions, reactions, comments, or thoughts up to this point. Okay, so we talked about interest in the position itself. We talked about why someone might leave an organization to pursue another interest. Um, yes, the meeting is being recorded. Victor, I see your question in the chat. Yes, the meeting is being recorded. It is available on Santa Barbara's YouTube channel. I believe we have a member from the team that can put that link in the chat. I did have the link. I should have brought it up and had it ready to just kind of copy and paste. But we'll make sure that we get that link included in the chat. And certainly, if the Santa Barbara office has your email address, they can send you the email address as well. Send it to your email. But these sessions are being recorded and they are posted to the Santa Barbara American Job Center YouTube account. Yes, and Janie, absolutely right. You want to be excited about the opportunity itself. And so now let's talk about why we're interested in the organization. We talked about the position. What is it about the organization? And here, team, there's two things that we want to do. We want to demonstrate that we have done our homework about this organization, and we want to demonstrate how our research has led us to the place where this organization is a good fit for us. And it's fine to gather that information from the website. I'm going to encourage you, particularly because of where we are in our society, even if you are not particularly active on social media, that you explore and look at in organizations social media presence, particularly if this is a group that you're really excited about. Even small companies will have a Facebook or a Twitter, um, because it is another way to interact with their market, with their customers. And so, in addition to the company's website, I would also encourage you to spend a bit of time looking at the social media and using that information to inform your understanding. It's also helpful to have an understanding of where the organization is situated, kind of in the market that they operate in, and to have a sense as to who their competitors are. Because then you can start to draw some contrasts. What I really like about your organization is that you value these things as opposed to what I've seen from some of your competitors, such as I don't get that same sense from those organizations that I do from y'all. I get the sense that this organization values these things, and those are very important to me. From a professional perspective, those are gonna put me in a position where I feel aligned from a value perspective, and that is absolutely appropriate. It's really about kind of drilling down and being specific. We don't want to be too general here, but we really want to try to drill down, identify a couple of key points that really draw us to a particular organization, and certainly, any way, any examples that you can identify that that display why this organization is a better organization than some of its competitors. You want to do that. Nothing wrong with making a company feel good about itself in the interview. Nothing wrong with affirming the interviewer's choice to be a part of that organization. I mean, that's the other thing you got to remember is you're not interviewing with a cyborg. You're interviewing with a person, and you're interviewing with a person that made a choice about that organization. And so there's nothing wrong with helping that person to feel good about the choice that they made by highlighting some of the really, unique and special qualities of that organization. All right, so kind of these two questions we're aware of. They are out there. They don't get asked as often, in my experience. Organizations have found, I think, different ways, in some respects, maybe even more effective ways to get at what they're hoping to learn from asking someone to articulate what they perceive to be their greatest weakness. One of the things that we're going to say is that the weakness question really is position specific. It's an opportunity to take this question and express how you are qualified for the position, and what you're going to bring to the role. And so we've provided a couple of examples up here that you can see. It really is about um, Spin is not the right word because I said, a little bit earlier that we don't want to spin and we don't want to spin. I we want to be careful to come across as being ungenuine, disingenuous. You want to avoid coming across as not having any weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses. The employer knows you have weaknesses. That is not a question. And so what it comes down to is, how do we frame the question? And we want to frame the question specific to the position, and we want to frame it in such a way that highlights how we're improving, how we're growing. One of the ways that I have answered this question in the past has been straightforward, in terms of one of the areas where I have found regular room for improvement previously. And so that's the key, is that the weakness is not something that you are struggling with at the moment. So the weakness is something that you have identified previously, either on your own or perhaps was brought to your attention. That's irrelevant. But it's something that's been identified and that you've taken steps to address, that you've taken steps to remedy. I struggled in the past with my written communication. However, I have instituted the practice of reading out loud any written communication that I'm going to share with someone else to ensure that I am not using the wrong word in the inappropriate places, that I don't have any glaring grammar or spelling errors. And depending on the nature of the communication, I may even engage the support of a colleague or family member to reread any communication before it gets sent. Certainly, if it's going to a senior person within the organization, a manager or upper level supervisory staff. And so that's an example of, there was a weakness at one point in time. I addressed the weakness, and I'm moving beyond that. You do not want to put yourself in a place of inferiority within an organization. Again, we're also not going the opposite direction of we're perfect, we don't have any flaws. Again, everybody has weaknesses. But we're going to frame that in such a way that demonstrates we've been proactive about those things. And then on the other side, again, not wanting to go overboard, but what is our greatest strength? And this is really about identifying what is lacking within the organization or what's lacking within the industry, and how you can be positioned to meet that need. And so some of this may come up through the course of the interview, where there's a back and forth. An interview is a conversation, it's not an interrogation. It's incredibly appropriate for you to ask questions as you're going along, even before you get to the end. You can ask a follow-up question. That is appropriate. There's nothing wrong with that, and demonstrates a level of engagement and a level of assertiveness. And those are positive traits. Those are positive qualities. And so the greatest strength question, the greatest strength question is really of just that. It's what qualities do you possess that our organization is missing, that our industry is missing, that we need. And in doing that, you insert yourself as a solution to a problem the organization may not even be aware that they have. And so that's what this is about. This is not about some talent, some strange talent that you have, unless it has specific relevance to the position. But it really is, again, you can kind of see the recommendation. You're aligning yourself with the reputation, the qualities of the organization. If an organization is known for being incredibly collaborative, one of your strengths is going to be I work well with others. It's one of the things that I do best. If an organization is known for being incredibly flexible and innovative, one of your greatest strengths is your ability to adapt quickly to change, and someone that anticipates and seeks out change. That that is um, that is how you're going to respond to this question. Questions on any thoughts, feedback, question, responses to those two questions: your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. Legal history. Can you and Janie, if you want to take a second and just elaborate, are we talking about um, backgrounds? Are we talking about potential criminal backgrounds or what? Okay, fair question. Um, so that's a tricky one, and it is going to very much be framed by what can and can't be asked in an interview in your state, because it differs from state to state. Now generally there are some questions that cannot be asked. Questions about age, for example, cannot be asked, and questions that give the interviewer um, uh, um, a direction. That's not what I want to say. Questions that allow the interviewer to try to get at some of that protected information, like age. So maybe they don't come out and say, "How old are you?" But they may come out and say, "Oh, so yeah, we see that you went to school here. What year did you graduate?" Those types of questions. If you haven't put it on your resume, for example, and you're not legally required to do that, you don't have to respond to that kind of question. If they come right out, what year did you graduate? What I'd prefer to do is actually focus on the knowledge and skills that I obtained while I was in school and how I've been able to apply that in my career since that point in time. I don't think the date that I graduated is as important as what I gained while I was in school. So those are the types of things. Um, if I don't believe in many states, an employer cannot ask if you have a criminal background. Um, yeah, again, that really is going to be something that is determined state by state. I do not believe that an employer can come right out and ask, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Have you ever been convicted of a yeah, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Now, that question can appear on some applications. There are some states, yes, yeah, yeah. So, Joan, you just you're right along there with me. There are some states that do allow that question to be asked on the application, and then so certainly the employer has the right to follow up on that question um, if they're allowed to ask it on the application. If it doesn't appear on the application, I do not believe that they can ask it in the interview. You want to make sure that you touch base with with some of the folks there at the American Job Center to get specifics on what can be legally asked um, uh, in the state of California. In Connecticut, we cannot ask. It's not on the application. You can't ask in the interview. So, having said that, let's say that you ultimately, I think the question that you're asking, Janie, is what happens if I get asked a question that legally an employer shouldn't be able to ask, but I'm in the interview. We're back and forth, and they ask me a question that I legally don't have to respond to. One of the things that I'm going to caution you in is not necessarily responding with, I don't legally have to answer that question. I don't know that that's particularly helpful beyond demonstrating that you were prepared for it for whatever reason, and that's what you're going with. I think what you would want to do in that situation is, particularly if it's similar to kind of the weakness, right? If they are probing and they're trying to look for a weak spot, they're trying to look for a chink in your armor. One of the things that you would want to do is use the opportunity to highlight a strength, use the opportunity to further differentiate yourself as someone that is um, going to be a great fit for the organization. So here's a hypothetical. Let's say I have been maybe, so there's a couple of different things. I may have been charged for a crime, but I was never convicted. But let's say I was. Let's say I was charged and convicted. I served my time. I paid my debt, and now I'm in the process of turning my life around. And I am in a state where the employer cannot legally ask, have I ever been convicted? And so the employer asks, have you ever been convicted of a crime? What I would say in that situation is, well, I appreciate this opportunity to talk about how I've learned from various experiences in my life. And I have encountered a variety of challenges and obstacles, both personally and professionally, that have shaped the perspective that I bring to this opportunity. I believe that based on the experiences I've had in the past, I'm going to be a great fit. As I mentioned before, I have a passion for, blah, 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 blah. So that's one way I can respond. So, all right, so Charles, well, what happens when the employer says, well, that's great, I appreciate that, but you didn't actually answer my question. Have you ever been convicted? And so at that point, if the employer is adamant, and I know they're not legally allowed to ask the question, then at that point I may respond and say, I appreciate you being persistent. I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to at this point acknowledge that I do have some, some rights here, and I don't think that that my response to that specific question is going to provide any more useful information about my candidacy. Charles, it's a simple question. If you can't answer the question, then I think we're done here. At that point in time, you have to make a decision, right? At that point in time, you have to make a decision. You can answer the question. You do not want to lie under any circumstances. I'm sure everyone's aware of that. Under no circumstances are you going to lie. If you've been convicted, you've been convicted. And if you choose to answer the question, then you're going to answer the question. Yes, I was. These are the things that I learned. Immediately. If you're going to answer the question and the answer to the question is yes, it's yes, and this is what I've learned. It's yes, and this is how I'm better. It's yes, and these are the things that I've put in place to ensure I don't ever make that kind of mistake again. So it's yes, and immediately you do not give a breath, a pause, a moment for the employer to then go, go beyond. It's yes, and if in fact, that is your situation. If you decide not to answer the question because the fact that the organization is being so persistent about it says something to you about the nature of the culture there and the kind of organization, then you can decline. You can decline whether they're legally allowed to ask the question or not. You can always decline. So an organization can say, if they're legally allowed, and you can say, I'm going to respectfully decline to respond to that question, and they may say, well, we appreciate your time. This will conclude the interview, and that is the reality of that. If they're not legally allowed to answer the question, you can say it's my understanding in the state of Connecticut that's not a question that I am required to respond to in an interview, and I would ask you to respect my legal rights, and whatever comes of that is what comes of it. But I think is that I know it's a very long-winded answer, Janie, but it's not a straight, it's not a simple, um, yes or no. That there are some layers to it. But is that helpful? Absolutely. No, it's a great question. So we're going to try to zip through these last few here, but a very very important nonetheless. This is always a good one. Could be potentially a trap, so you want to be careful. But how would others describe you? In particular, how would your former colleagues, your former coworkers, or current, if you're still working and trying to transition while you're still working, how would a current or former coworkers describe you? And this is really, it's not, oh, everyone would say I've been the greatest thing to happen to them professionally. They just rant and rave about how, I mean, we don't not going to go overboard here, but this really is an opportunity to express your ability to work with a variety of individual, your ability to collaborate effectively in teams, your ability to follow through, to be someone that can be counted on to deliver. This is your opportunity to express all of that. There's a healthy balance with expressing self-esteem, remaining humble. So you're expressing your self-esteem that you genuinely feel that your former colleagues would have some generally nice things to say about you, but under a humble perspective. We're not bragging. We're not bragging. Where you see yourself in the future, right? 5, 10 years from now. This is the employer trying to get a sense as to, do you have any plans? Do you have any goals? Are you worth an investment? Are you worth an investment? It's fine to say, I see myself, still here with the organization, having grown, maybe in a different position, supervisory level. If those are your genuine aspirations, but you have to be genuine. You have to be genuine. Now, I would be careful. No organization wants to feel like a stepping stone. And so I would avoid any kind of response that's going to indicate that I plan to be somewhere very different 5 years from now, because I'm coming here to gain some experience and then moving on. Where you see yourself 5 years from now is you see yourself growing. You see yourself having had some success, and in a place where you're still learning, where you've been given some additional responsibility, where you've been given some additional opportunity to share your value with teams that can benefit from your unique perspective, qualities, and skills. So that's what it is. It's and of course there's a lot of people that are interviewing. So it really is okay to use questions like this as a way to stand out. It really is. So if there's a bunch of jobs on your resume, you've had some difficulty early in your career, what have you. You don't want to come across as a job hopper, even if that's sort of been the case. It's similar to the 5 years from now, an organization is trying to determine if you are someone they can invest in, if you're someone they can count on. You want to be honest, of course. And if the reality is it took you a while to find an industry, to find a niche, to find a fit that was going to work for you, then that's okay. That is okay. That's the truth. The truth is the truth. And so acknowledge it, own it, and but that was a different point in time. You've got a different mindset, you've got a different focus, and this organization and this opportunity represent for you, a place where you can grow and have some lasting impact. And then so similarly, so again on the other side of the equation, so you got weakness, strength. You got, why do you have so many jobs in your application? And now you have, why has it been so long since the last time? And this is really, everybody knows what's going on, family. Everybody knows what's going on. Um, I was in an industry that has shrunk due to the economic environment that we're in. I've had difficulty landing in similar industries because a number of those opportunities um, are not prevalent. There are not a lot of them in the area. It's not offensive. It's not an insult. Things happen. You may have had to care for a family member. You may have had young children. Stuff happens, and so it's okay to express that. But now things are different. That was then. This is now. I had some obligations that I needed to address. I've addressed those obligations, and now I'm in a position to move forward. So this is kind of unique. This may not come up every time, but we don't want you to be caught off guard in the event that your supervisor may be younger than you. If that's a possibility, you may be asked about it. And it really is, listen, I respect someone's skills. I respect someone's expertise. The fact that my manager maybe younger or older is not as important to me as working with someone that's going to value me and help me grow. And that's really what it comes down to, is don't fall into the trap. And well, I don't know, as long as they respect me, of you, that's those are traps. Those are traps. It's not about them respecting you. It's not about them acknowledging you. It's about, you're excited to work with someone that is going to help you learn and grow, that is going to be collaborative, and you recognize that you can learn from anyone and everyone, because everyone's experience and background is unique and different. Again, this is another kind of one of those trap ones. There are people that you struggle to collaborate with, or are the people that you don't work well with. I work well with everyone. I get along well with everyone. I'm absolutely a team player. I struggle to collaborate with people that are irresponsible. I struggle to collaborate with people that are not also collaborative. But I really am absolutely someone that enjoys working with different types of individuals, because I learn and I grow, and I think that's what we're all here to do. This is not it's not a wishy-washy. It is first and foremost, I'm a team player. You're not going to have to worry about any personality conflicts with me, and the only people that I would have difficulty collaborating with are people that have difficulty collaborating. That's it. If someone has trouble working with others, then that's not about me. That's about them. I work well with anyone that is willing to work with someone else. And then as we come to the last one or two here, this is one of those. It may not always pop up. Yeah, we wanted to try to provide enough information to help you take on a variety of questions that you're going to be asked. You notice we didn't include things like, if if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why? Or what's your spirit animal? Or, there are all sorts of creative questions that are out there, that we just certainly couldn't account for all of them. But this is one of those, it's kind of non traditional, a bit abstract. Who has been the greatest influence? This is very personal. Again, you want to be true, you want to be genuine. It can absolutely be someone from your education. It doesn't have to be a former boss. It doesn't have to be a former colleague. But ultimately, what you're articulating here is that you are someone that can be mentored. You are someone that can be coached. You are someone that can be guided and led. And that's very, very important. Is that this question is an opportunity for you to express your ability to learn and grow from someone else. That you are coachable, that you're open to feedback and direction, and here's an example of someone that has had an impact on your life. And then, finally, just some questions for you to ask. You can see the list here. I think it is very appropriate to ask questions during the interview, certainly at the end when you're given an opportunity. The one question you should always ask, and we'll end it on this. We're a little bit over time. I want to be respectful of your time, but the one question you should always ask, you should always ask for the job. What, Charles? What are you talking about? You can see the bottom question there, in the orange gold. Is there any reason why you would not be able to offer me this opportunity today? Always ask for the job. Do not ever walk out of an interview without expressing how serious you are about the opportunity. And the best way to do that is to outright ask for the position. There are other ways to do it. When can I start? That's a little more, it's got to be consistent with your personality. It's got to be consistent with the tone of the interview. But that is one way. When can I expect to hear from human resources to begin? The next phase is another way. This is the way that I like. It has served me well in the past. It has served well those that I've coached in the past. Do not ever miss an opportunity in an interview to ask for the position. Is there any reason why you would not be able to offer me this opportunity today? They they may give a reason. They may say we've got other people to interview, yada yada yada. What that tells you is that they are not that serious about you, or at least that you're not their number one, and that's okay, because you can begin to then focus and pivot and put your effort and energy in other organizations. But if they do come back and say, well, Charles, I wish I could, I really can't offer you the opportunity today, but we're definitely going to have you back for a follow-up interview. I feel very positively about this match. I think you'd be a great fit for the company. There are just there's some pieces of the process that we can't bypass. No problem. Then you know that they're serious about you, and you can continue to kind of focus your efforts and energy around that organization. This question helps you to make that discernment. I'm Santa Barbara. I am just very, very grateful for everyone's time, everyone's attention, for your ongoing participation. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Listen, please have a safe, blessed, healthy Thanksgiving. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.